road we're on, it's about 5 miles long, very curvy, very hilly. You need 4-wheel drive to get back in there, and it dead ends into a graveyard of all things. But first location we went to.
Turn bills.
Sorry.
This is the first location we were at, and you'll hear the original audio, and then we'll play the David Ellis edit of it. What David does for us is, if there's coyotes or anything in the back, he subdues them. He pulls the unknown vocal out and makes it more prominent, and he usually loops it like 4 to 6 times. But you'll hear the howl, we think it's a young one, and you'll hear Mike's son Jordan say that was a scream. That is the actual road right there. That was all that happened there. So we kept driving. And this road, like I said, is into a graveyard. Now this won't make any sense, but actually at this graveyard is where I felt the safest that night. And the reason for that is, everywhere else we were on this road, if you want to call it that, the woods were right up on the edge. I felt like at any minute something could reach out, grab me, and Mike would turn around, bless you, Mike would turn around and I'd be gone. But in a graveyard, you got the trees kind of cut away, got a little bit of an open area, and I'm like, okay, if anything comes to get me now, I can see it, and I can have a heart attack before it gets to me. But we're there for, I don't know, 45 minutes to an hour. Nothing happened at first. His son Jordan was asleep in the car.
Yeah, he was sound asleep, and then to the right of us into the wood line, we heard like this, kind of like footfalls. We could tell it was bipedals like walking, and then we heard this like weird whistling noise, and then all hell literally broke loose.
Yeah, this thing starts howling, coyote joins in with it. You'll be able to tell the difference between the two because the coyote's really high pitched, has that yippy dog sound, and this other thing sounds nothing like that. And at one point, there's some language here in this one because it sounds like this thing's being strangled. We think there's some kind of relationship there with those two, maybe like a shark and a remora, maybe they're scrounging off each other, I don't know, but this is from the graveyard. And mind you, at this time, it's probably 1-something in the morning, and it's pitch black, and we don't have any flashlights going like they showed. We're sitting there in the dark. be a primate to sound out a vowel sound. Unfortunately, we did a lot of talking there, sorry, we were extremely excited. Now here's the David Ellis versions of those, cleaned up a little bit. He's gonna start mimicking the coyotes here. That's all that happened there. And we sit there for another, I don't know, half hour or so. See, anything else would happen, but just like at the first spot, they went quiet like it never happened. So we made our way to this location. We call this the bridge, because you see the bridge. The original recording, there's a lot of background noise because of all that rain earlier. That little creek was like the Ohio River. It was crazy. Or Tuscarawas River, how's that? But this is the one that David Ellis said on a spectrograph, head higher than a baboon. And this is from Adams County, Ohio. Just like the others, Hal goes into the ah sound, and at the end, he's whooping. He's actually trying to mimic the coyotes. Now here's the David Ellis version of that. Luke. Here's the whoops isolated. Yes, everything that happened there. Now we learned a lesson that night with all this craziness going on. Never had another night like this, like Game 7 of the World Series and the Super Bowl one night. But his batteries, my batteries, every recording thing we had, all the batteries died. So now we have a toolbox, the top of it's nothing but batteries. So we don't have any more recordings, but this night is not over. So we head down the road a little ways, and there's an area we call the turnaround. It's only a spot on this road where you can turn around. And Mike had something happen.
So yeah, we go up this way, and we like, okay, we're pretty far away. So my son, he's like, hey Dad, why don't you do your call, get out and see if we can hear all that, what we was hearing. So I get out across the road, like Mike said, it is really late at this time. I hear a little snap up on the right of me, up off this ridge, goes this way. And I turn, and that's when I had a Class A Bigfoot sighting. I see this thing looking at me, shoulder, head, and I seen the eye doing this. And then it mimicked me, how I'm talking right now, but when I did my vocals earlier, it mimicked that. It sounded, I get goosebumps on this because this scared me. It sounded like me up there, but it's standing there. And I seen it, and I'm walking backwards to get to my son, and my best friend is back there in my SUV. And when they shed those lights, we don't have lights. The show did, but we didn't. And I wanted out of there as quick as I could because this thing's standing.
We'll do Q&A at the end.
I was just gonna ask him, did it sound like human speech?
It was like a vocalization.
Okay.
So at the time don't realize that these things are moving us out. Everywhere we go, these things are following us. So we got out of it.
And it didn't dawn on us. Mike's totally right. Go down the road a little bit further, and Jordan gets out of the car at this time. He's 6'2", he's gonna go out like his dad. And he gets out, he cuts loose, bless you. And we get a reply. Pretty much sounded just like the last one we did play. But this time there's one on this side, there's one on this side. And that really alarmed me because right then is when I realized, hey, wait a minute, we're surrounded. They're on each side of us, they're closer. Besides being further away at the beginning of the night, they're not only on each side, but they have progressively gotten closer. And I'm really alarmed. I'm like, we gotta get out of here, but this is going on. But one more thing I forgot to mention, they showed Mike having like a panic attack. He was kind of, stunned or whatever, but they added all that, because you're gonna do that for TV. So while this is going on, those, when Jordan did his howl, when they replied, he wasn't even done howling when they replied. But there was another sound going on. I heard air escaping, what it sounded like, and I thought, darn it, maybe he drove over something, and one of his tires is leaking. So I walk over to his car. It's not coming from his car, it's coming from inside the wood line. So not being too bright, I decide to go over and take a few steps into this wood line, because I can't figure out what I'm hearing. I thought, what in the world, did someone put a scuba tank in the freaking woods or what? Well, I'm standing there, and this thing was probably to that wall, if not maybe even a little closer. I can't see anything, but this is where the sound's coming from. And I stand there quiet, I'm listening, and then I realize what I'm hearing. That's not, bless you again, that's not air escaping, that is something breathing. And this thing actually takes in, it sounds like King Kong taking in a breath, and I got goosebumps. Still do. This is, how many years ago? This thing takes in a big breath of air and emits a very low, very guttural, I don't know if you want to call it a roar, howl, whatever, but I felt when it let go, cut loose, it reverberated off of me like I was at a heavy metal concert. Like the bass and the drums, I felt. And to me, these other ones might have been the Clan. This was Big Daddy, and what that meant was, you gotta get out of here now or else. And I literally stepped out of the wood line. Now they showed me firing a warning shot. I did not do that. I did pull my gun because I didn't know if this thing was coming out after me. And in a Michael Jackson type of voice, I said, we're getting the F out of here now. So we hustled to the car. We looked like the Keystone Cops getting in the car. You kids like to Google that one. But we took off, and Mike about killed us.
Yeah, I took off on the SUV, and I almost rolled over the hill, and the big bridge there, so I probably would have killed all of us, but the adrenaline was through the roof, so I keep going pretty fast, and then I had to stop because there's a buck, a deer, literally right in front of the SUV. Mike says, does this thing want to ride? He was gonna go out and tackle it, but it was not looking at me. The lights are on bright, big buck, it's looking back there, like it knew those things was there. It clawed the ground, and it got out of there, and that's when we went.
Yeah, it snorted. It actually turned around and went the opposite direction. It knew those things were there. So we left, and we drove out of there. We got maybe 2-3 miles up the road. Mike actually wanted to go back, and I'm like, no, I think they're gonna push a tree down on the car. So we got out of there, and that was October 11th, 2014.
We'll never forget.
We will never forget that.
Nope.
And if you did not like our presentation, you'll have to see Russell Cord. He's the head of our complaint department. see Russ, talk to him about it, but, before we get into the, Q&A, right there's the pack he wears in the show. The person in the middle is Jeff Byers, our good friend. You might have noticed him in one of the photos earlier. He was there one of the rock nights. He's actually the creator of Creature Replica, that figure. Of course, you know the legend right there next to him, but that's what's going next.
After this, you can do Q&A, we can talk all night. Well, not all night, I'm hungry, but we can do Q&A.
DS's party at her house.
Oh, yeah, sure, I'll give you the address.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, they're in jail, right? Okay, we'll do this first. Build the suspense up. Commercial break. Once again, you people at home are not winning that figure. Show that figure, put it down by the camera. Show them that. You could have won that if you showed up. Lazy sitting at home.
Ooh, I like that.
Yes. And if this ends up on eBay, we're coming to your house. Actually, you know what? You're holding your hands. Come here, little man. Come here. You right there in the middle. You right there. Come here. Don't do that. Here you go. Yeah. He was praying like this. He was like, I want it. Yes, we got to give that to the kids. Go ahead.
We're all yours. Go ahead.
So my friend here, my daughter lived in Seattle in the Pacific Northwest for about a decade, and I thought that was where Sasquatch came from. That's all you hear about in Seattle, Washington, Oregon. I had no idea until today, all over Ohio. And my daughter, one time, her son went down to the Ozarks, for a group like yours down there, and they all came together. And what I can't understand is they're all over the country, and there's all these people looking for this thing, and everybody has cell phones and cameras. And so I guess it's somebody able to photograph, or even crazier people. Somebody go out with a tranquilizer gun or an AR-15, kill one of these things.
I'll take part of that. The tranquilizer gun and the amount of that tranquilizer you would need to do that, you'd have to have a veterinary license to get that much. And go out and shoot one, they know when you're in the woods. And like when people are out, maybe they go to hiking or they go fishing, they might be watched, they may not even know they're being watched, but when you go out in the woods and you do wood knock, you go, woo, they know you're there for them. Okay?
One more thing, apparently these things are nocturnal. Do people go out in the woods and where do they go in the daytime?
Oh, well, there's plenty of cave systems, and all they need is food, water, and shelter. There's plenty of shelter. We live, nothing wrong with the kids, we live in a lazy society world where unless you go hunting, I go places where I go hiking, I don't see nobody even during the day, but they have plenty of places to hide. You know what I mean? When you talk about finding a body, that's very rare. We can't even find dead bears that died of natural causes a lot. So, and I don't think they travel alone, so I don't think you're gonna shoot one and take one out. Don Keating always told, back in the day, always said you'd have to cut one up and take pictures, but there is great pictures, but people scrutinize a lot of stuff. There is the bogus and hokey stuff, but, you know, so there is a lot of evidence.
I didn't think there was anything in Ohio when I first started this, but every time I kept looking, I kept finding stuff, and I don't feel that way anymore, especially with the rocks. You have to have a thumb, you have to have a hand to throw a rock.
That's another question. You guys go out there and they want to harm you. They're throwing these big rocks at you and stuff.
I've done this so long, I would have been dead. He would have took my body and buried me. They want you out of the air.
Yeah.
So,
like you said, that one article you had up there from way back in the day, it actually jumped out, pulled a guy off of a horse carriage.
that's hearsay. Is that true? We don't know, but that's hearsay.
I was thinking, why doesn't it just attack us?
Well, if they wanted to kill us, they definitely could. We would already, my whole crew would have been done. But You know, why we go back? Because I love it. I love the adrenaline of that, so.
There's stories about that, I'm sorry, sir, hang on one second. There's stories, a lady we talked to, her dad was full-blooded Shawnee, she talked about when she was younger, hearing stories where they were raiding, I don't know if they were taking kids or not, they were taking food, they were causing problems. They actually tracked them into a cave they were in and piled stuff up in front of the entrance, set it on fire to like try to fight back, so, you know, and there's other stories that they've been violent, we just don't know. That's why, you know, one of the pictures you seen earlier we have apples and tomatoes out and other stuff. We're trying to say, hey, we know we're making you mad, but we're really not here to fight.
This guy right here.
Some of the shows, like you see Expedition Bigfoot and stuff, they try to bring in a paranormal aspect. The one scene where they show the creature walking through and then it disappears, you know. The Erie encounter, Erie, Pennsylvania, on the beach where the 4 teenagers were, has a UFO over this thing. I don't know. What are your beliefs on the, now your encounters, they stayed right with you to the last. They didn't disappear on you like some of these shows are trying to make it out. And it's just something I'm just trying to figure out.
My belief is if a Bigfoot's in the woods and that's his home, right?
Yeah.
And, oh, okay, well, like planes fly, right?
Right.
The plane ain't, you know, they may be going to Florida. Well, if a UFO flies over, you know, they're in Bigfoot's home. So, you know, I don't put a mystery with another mystery. I love the UFO phenomenon, I'm just not into it, but I don't put them together. Some people do, some people don't.
I had a small encounter up in Atlantis. It was about 800,000 yards away. It was too far away to be definitive. But I did see this creature above the corn swaying. I said, what animal sways? A Bigfoot. So, it didn't disappear either. We got out of it.
What year was that?
This was with Dan Baker on the lines, about 5, 6 years ago.
Oh, yeah. And was it at night when you seen it?
No.
It was day?
Hey. The swamp grass was so tall where we were, and it was so far back, and I kept looking at it, opening my eyes, am I seeing that right? And it was south of our lanes, more or less. It was out in the country.
I mean, I don't think UFOs brought them here to mine gold and all that stuff. I mean, I think if, you know, UFOs supposedly grab people and cattle and all that stuff, they could probably grab one of them, but I don't think UFOs brought them here.
I'm trying to bring a paranormal aspect into it, you know, and I don't know about that. I have questions.
It was here before we were here.
Right.
Native Americans all have a word for Bigfoot, and it doesn't describe Bigfoot as a god or a deity. It's, you know, keeper of the woods, watcher of the woods, hairy man of the woods.
Up in the northwest, they have crate drawings of that.
Yeah, and the Shawnee Indians in Ohio,
Indians, yes.
their word, I can't pronounce it, their word translates into the watchers.
Mhm.
So they were here. We didn't bring this story and give it to the Native Americans.
They've been here.
They've been here. And it's terrestrial, it's lived here, and
A lot of
it's
people-
flesh and blood.
A lot of people believe they were here before the Indians. They was the first ones here. Anybody else? I saw that right here.
I was driving out past Barberton Reservoir, been 2-3 years ago, and I looked across the reservoir and saw something in the woods. I stopped and backed up, and I still don't know if it was a bear or if it was Bigfoot. It just kind of backed up into the woods.
It's cool.
Wow.
You know, some people say, oh, it's a bear walking. You can Google and you could watch videos of bears on 2 legs. They look very
They walk
clumsy.
different, yeah,
Yeah, they do not,
yeah.
they're not fluid. You know.
Anybody else? Yeah.
2 questions. With your encounters, okay, I've often heard there's a putrid smell. Did you notice any foul odors?
We've had smelled them before, but that night we didn't smell them that
Okay.
night.
Could be the wind direction, you know, but we smelled some
And it
awful stuff.
rained like, I mean, it was monsoon rain for hours.
And secondly, you know, these creatures are, you know, talking 8 foot tall, and these howls are pretty high pitched. I would expect something like that to have much lower register. But secondly, or thirdly, you know, why are they howling? If they,
We don't know, but a lot of it depends on the speaker system, and I'm not knocking the library, speaker system's really good, but something bigger like a concert, like if we were to play this at a rock and roll concert with all that, you'd probably feel it. And it's, we were there, you could feel that, like that one that did that, when I walked in the wood line, I felt that. So they're high, sometimes they're lower, they use them for sound. People have been zapped and stuff.
I got zapped last weekend, but on your, also on that too, your question, like Meldrum and some of the old researchers said that like when they, like in October, they seem like they howl more. Some people think that's their migration period, you know, they're not bears doing it, you know, but even though there's sightings in the winter, but a lot of people think they're doing it that way because Roger and Bob had their sighting in October, but that seems like when we pick up most of the vocalizations in the fall.
Are they vocalizing at you, or are they vocalizing to each other, just communication?
It's both things have happened.
Okay.
Yes.
They had vocalized because we were there, and sometimes we just kind of catch them. That one at the Valley property, it's actually was played last, it's in the wrong order, that's one of the first ones we heard, where they're communicating back and forth. Because David said there was, he's got all the Batman equipment, and he said on the spectrograph, there's one and then there's another, because he can see it on the graph. We don't have, you know, stuff like that.
That area at the graveyard is, I did my vocalization. We did wood knocks and sit there. And there was a guy, because we've done a lot of lectures out that way, and he says out near there, there's a lot of cave system. He thinks they was in there for the rain, and then they hear us, and they're coming checking us out because we're trying to sound like them. And then here we are sitting there. But still, again, that's still hearsay, but that's, we've got a lot of feedback people say.
You talk about vocalizations, can you give us one?
Do your hell, Mike.
Good one.
I wanna hear it. Thank you.
A good one.
So usually when we go out, it echoes everywhere. So.
Yeah.
When they do that, their lung capacity is so much greater, the howl lasts a lot longer and carries. Because that one, I didn't mention it, but that one that was reported, we believe, where the ridge was at the Valley property, we believe this thing was on the other side actually from us. And it, if you hear the long version of that recording, Mike does a howl, and then this thing replies a few seconds later. And to me, what I picture when this thing howls, I think it's clenching its teeth and it's going, because it's pissed we're there. And I think that was the reply.
Yes. Also, another thing like Howe too, where we had these structures in Adams County. This is during the day. We was in the wood one time. We're coming out. He was there. We was in your vehicle, and we heard a vocalization just out of the blue, and it was like, oh my God, we didn't even do nothing.
Usually it's a wood knock. Sometimes that's to alert. They're telling each other, hey, we got company, and we're the company, or you could be the company. And if you guys do this, it's great. Don't go by yourself. Take a buddy system, because a lot of places don't have phone signal. You fall down, twist an ankle or something, you can't get help. So buddy up.
We got time for one more question. Yes.
What other evidence do you guys find besides the sounds and throwing rocks?
Well, I found tracks, discoveries, we found that. We've never found hair, but we found a lot of the tracks before. And a lot of the structures that, Don is a weatherman, so he kind of, like Mike put on that from, we've seen that, like structures and stuff built that is not natural. We've actually have an area in Adams County where we put out peanut butter. We put one jar with tape on it, the other one did not. They actually took the jar that had no tape, the one with tape, they left it, and they put structures around this tree. And it wasn't people, I'm telling you, it wasn't people. So it's pretty interesting. Anybody else? All right, on behalf of our friends Bev and Matt McCoy, that is Noah Miller, that's Mike Miller, I'm Mike Feltner, we are the Ohio Night Stalkers. Look us up on Facebook, and thanks for coming.
Thank you.